So I'm going to go over our user annual spends on being able to manually change these spends every year over the next 30 years. So it's a breakup of a table. There's two tables. There's this first initial table, which goes over a 10-year period. And then there's a second table down below that goes through the subsequent 20 years. Our first column here is just the year that we're in, the current age that we are, and then what age we'll be at that year. Our first changeable column here is our property value. So as we're doing purchases over the years, we can plug in those different purchase values. We've got renovation spends, motor vehicle spends, holiday spends, and all these numbers increase with inflation. So this person would have started with 10 grand a year, and then inflation's taking a bite out of that every year moving forward. Again, future education spends. So if you've got young kids now that aren't in school, we want to account for education spends down the line, we can do that. Other spends, so if you've got like a wedding coming up, you can account for that in 10 years' time or whatever it might be. And then we've got principal and interest or interest only. And so we can either say, let's indicate the whole portfolio on interest only, or indicate the whole portfolio on principal and interest. Then we've got some major events on the right-hand side here as well. So just factoring in those things, holiday spends, we're refinancing and purchasing early to account for having children. We're refinancing and holidaying in this year. And so we can sort of see all those major events that are happening from there. So the algorithm sort of sets all of this by default from three key areas of the fact finders. The first one is goal alignment, the second one is risk profile, and the third one is property plan. So it's really critical that you enter in all of that information correctly, because the algorithm will set you at a bit of a baseline that's actually going to be accurate based on the information that you've entered. Just means you don't have to come in here and manually update things. So the first thing we can do is just jump in here and sort of update everything by standard. So based on what the algorithm's saying, it's looking at a purchase price around this point. Let's say, okay, that's a little bit too much. Maybe we just want to do, a 550K purchase at that point in time. There's little helper buttons everywhere, so make sure you read them just to understand, what we actually need to be doing here. We've got a type of purchase, residential, principal, place of residence, or commercial, LVR standpoint. So how much are we going to be borrowing? Now we've got custom compound growth rate and custom rental yield here. So for this purchase specifically, if you didn't want to use the baseline assumptions, which is 4% growth, 5% growth, 4% rental yield, you can come in here and say, okay, well, let's go for a more growth focused property. We're going to go 6%, but we're going to cop it a little bit on the rental yield. So you can go 6 and 3 if you really wanted to. You can go 10 and 0 if you wanted to, or whatever it might be, but you can really customize how those things change here. Next, we've got all those spends. So you can come in here and update spends. If you've got another spend, you can indicate what that is. And then we've got three really critical things here that we can alter. We can either alter our savings. So let's say that we've got a big cash injection this year. We've got 10 grand coming in from parents or whatever it might be. We can put that in. We can alter our cash flow to say, okay, well, we know we're going to have a big pay rise in 2 years' time. And so we're going to increase 5 grand to our cash flow. And then we've got our altered debt as well. So, you might like that savings that we got from parents from 10 grand or whatever, maybe we want to minus that out of the mortgage rather than just put it in savings, whatever the scenario might be. We want to just account for every scenario that we potentially can at that point in time and update what that is. And then we've just got this alter description, which is really important for coming back into the future. So we can just say injection, or just put parents here. And that's going to update on the charts, but also leave that there for you. So if you were to come back in 12 months' time or whatever it might be, you can remember what that was from. Then we've got selling properties here. So given the existing portfolio and any future purchases that we're already planning, we can potentially look at selling any of those properties. You can highlight nothing, you can highlight none if you want to here, but it's going to give you what the value of those properties and the rents for those properties are going to be at that point in time, moving forward into the future. And then our last button here is just our switch to P&I. So you can either indicate if you want to be P&I or interest only. So updating that, it's going to impact everything on the back end. And then, change the graphs and everything that does it from that point in time. If I scroll down now, we can see that information is coming through. We've got parents here. We're buying a new car and we're not selling any properties. We've now updated that price to 550K. And then, it's going to impact our charts and everything else moving forward. So if you did want to sell a property, you can come in here and, sell one of these properties at this point in time. You can actually select multiple, update that, and it's going to do a full sell off on the charts. It'll show you what the passive income will be based on that information. Let's scroll down now. We can see that sell off and what impact it's going to have on the charts.